1 foot is the wave height. Highest one we've got is one of the dart buoys, which had a 3-foot wave out in the open ocean. This is closer to Kamchatka. I'm trying to figure out which exact buoy that it is, but it is Dart 21416. There are a couple of buoys that are kind of like out in the area. I've got just so you know what I'm doing, I'm kind of like looking at the map, trying to figure out which one is 21416. And this is probably one of the ones that is pretty, oh yeah, 21416 with a 3-foot amplitude is the one that is closest to the earthquake itself. So that one recorded a 3-foot wave out in the open ocean. The other ones are a little bit smaller. Back to some of the wave heights. There's about 1.1 feet in Japan. 2 other dart buoys that are out there, 1.5 and 1.4, 0.6 feet and 0.9 feet. And so there is a wave out there. It might not be that big, but again, even if it's not that big, there's still currents.
I know one of the buoys that they were trying to get more information on was the one in Guam at 657. Ben, do you see any data generated at that buoy?
Oh, is that Midway?
Guam.
Guam. I don't have Guam on this list, but I'll look it up.
Okay.
And see if I can look it up for you.
We do want to take a look at one of the reasons, of course, why we were watching Midway Atoll so closely is because it is kind of the first warning when we get a tsunami coming from the west or northwest like this. Let's actually take a look at some of the observed water levels. If we can bring up graphics 12 or max 2 real quick, you can see this very clearly. This is over it seems like the last 24 hours. The blue line, that's the actual prediction for where the water level was going to be. The water level is in red, and you can see as we're going into today, as the tsunami wave is passing, the tsunami waves, I should rather say, is passing the atoll buoy. You've got this jump up, you've got this jump down, you've got this jump up. You've got this jump down. Again, this is just indicative of how many different waves are going to be potentially moving in. Of course, it looks very different out there. It might look very calm on the camera. But again, Ben and I have been talking about how Hawaii is kind of in a very unique circumstance when it comes to our seafloor, our seafloor topography. Our waters get very deep very, very fast. So when this wave, this column of water is potentially moving in, it is going to grow very fast as it reaches the seafloor and grows quickly towards the coast. We get to the deep ocean pretty quickly here in the island chain. We don't have a continental shelf around us like the rest of the continents do. And of course, on that graphic that we were looking at, you can very clearly see the jump in the buoy, jump up, jump down, jump up. And again, that's multiple waves. It's not just one wave.
Is that an indicator on how strong the energy is from?
It absolutely can be, especially if we were seeing a much stronger, like much higher and much lower troughs and crests from the waves. Again, the buoy is on the top of the water. As the wave is troughing, so it's going down to the bottom, the buoy goes down. And so you're seeing it jump. This is the height in feet. If you let's bring up max 2 again, graphics 12, so you can see what we have out there. Again, this is on the y-axis. This is the height in feet. You're seeing this jump between 2 to just below -1 feet below the average, very quickly. This is a very quick jump.
Drew, something I want to jump back to is when we heard earlier from Governor Green, he was talking about the activity with the buoy at Midway.
Yes.
And so can you clear up for us and give us kind of like a direct line explanation? So he said it's measured at 6 foot at the buoy. Mm-hmm. What does that mean? What's happening at the ocean surface?
So, to the best of my understanding, and Ben, if I say this incorrectly, please correct me. 6 feet is what he's talking about between the trough and the crest of the wave. So it's 6 feet from the top of how tall it is, how tall the buoy goes up, to how low the buoy goes down in the water. So when we're seeing that, he talked about that 3-foot number, that is 3 feet above the typical water level or the tide level at that time. You can even see the tides in the beginning of this chart here. You've got high tide around 8 And then as you're going into even further, you've got low tide. You can see the up and down, and then you see this jump indicative of the tsunami waves.
We want to show you the waves that were just the first waves to arrive on the coast of Japan here. And gentlemen, if you could describe what we are seeing here. This was shortly after the powerful earthquake off the eastern coast of Russia.
Yeah, it looks like I'm going to assume that the ocean is on the right, or it might be a jetty. Oh, there we go. That's a better view. All right, this is basically classic tsunami wave action because it's coming in from the open ocean, and then you can see that very, very disturbed, kind of a wall of water that's coming in and overtaking, for example, the seawall there. You see the smaller waves, those are probably the normal waves that are, just basically every day. But you can see how that big area of white, that white water that pushes in, definitely that's a tsunami. It's a slightly large one. It's not huge by any means, but it is a tsunami wave because you can see just how much energy that it has basically generated and basically pushing in. And so the waves, the little ones you see on the beach just above, basically in the center there, those are regular waves, but tsunami waves, those are definitely been coming in for Japan. Again, it's a little closer to where the epicenter of this earthquake was. But right now, as we take another look at the Hanalei camera, we're not seeing an awful lot. We're still seeing a little bit of the current action, and it seems a little bit flat, close to the area. All right, Pacific Tsunami Warning Center is about to hold a press conference with the latest information. Let's go live there with the latest.
Coming in at Hanalei Bay, not so big, maybe about 1.5 feet above normal sea level, and then the signal was dropping to below normal sea level when I left a minute ago. But that's just the first part of the wave, and we know from what we observed at Midway, it was actually the third wave at Midway was the largest. So we've got some time to wait here. At Hanalei, which was the first place it arrived, and of course it is moving down the island chain. So we hadn't seen anything on any other gauges as of yet, but we know it's coming. So we're always hopeful it won't be too bad, but anticipating from our models that yes, we are going to have a significant tsunami going across our islands and arriving on all the coasts. We monitor about 15 sea level gauges across the state, so we will have more reports later, and of course our news channels will also probably be telling us what they're seeing in places where they can safely observe the coast. So please stay out away from the coast. I know you've all evacuated, so continue to stay evacuated, and the instructions ultimately on when it's safe to go back will come from the state and county emergency management agencies, but we've got a ways to go. It's probably going to be several hours before we may even be able to lower the warning here in Hawaii to advisory level when waves go down, and probably not at least until tomorrow morning before we're able to completely cancel the warning. And right now most of us are still waiting, and we are waiting to see just how big it is going to get across the state. So stay safe, everyone.
Given that the third wave was the biggest for Midway, are you expecting the same here in the islands of Hawaii? And what's the interval between waves?
So the interval between waves can be 10 to 20 minutes typically, from one wave crest to the next wave crest. And we don't know exactly, that Midway it was the third wave doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be the third wave. Here the wave pattern gets very complicated as the wave crosses the state, because those tsunami waves reflect off of islands, and they wrap around islands, and they interact with each other. So at every location it can be a different wave. But the threat will definitely go on for several hours.
Dr. McCurry, if you could kind of encapsulate everything again with regards to what are you looking for right now? I know you said we're still not clear, but what are the specific elements that you are really tracking to see what's that next data point that you can release?
So we're pretty much done with forecasting the tsunami at this point. We are just reacting. So, of course, our center has responsibilities across the whole Pacific. So we are continuing to send messages to other countries around the Pacific. But our main responsibility is here in Hawaii. And so at this point, we're more or less just monitoring the situation to try to determine when we could lower the alert level and ultimately when we can cancel.
The last time that you folks, I guess, were activated in this capacity, was that back in 2011 during the Japan earthquake? And how are the situations different? Because it's about the same direction of where it's coming from.
Yeah, 2011 was certainly the last significant tsunami we experienced here in Hawaii. But we actually handle many tsunami events in the Pacific every year because earthquakes in the lower magnitude 7 range are pretty frequent, maybe about 10 a year in the Pacific, and almost all of them generate some kind of smallish tsunami, but we don't normally hear about it. But sure, yeah, the Japan tsunami was the last significant tsunami, and in some ways it's similar, but every tsunami is unique in certain ways. The way the source behaves affects the tsunami, and crossing the bathymetry in the Pacific, the waves get focused and defocused in different ways, and so that's why we need numerical models to help us predict what might happen on our coast.
I know you were expecting 3 to 10. Now here we are, and we're more in the reaction phase. But can you revisit that prediction of up to 10 foot?
Yeah, sure. So the main thing we use to constrain our models are these deep ocean gauges that we support in the Northwest Pacific. Well, we support them all across the Pacific, but the ones for this event are the ones in the Northwest Pacific, and they're out in deep water. They measure the tsunami without interference from reflections on the coast, which you have with a normal tide gauge that's in a harbor. And so our models try to match the signals that are seen on those deep ocean gauges, and if we can match them, then we know we've created the right kind of wave. And so, of course, in the beginning, we only have a reading on one gauge, and later on it's 2, 3, 4 gauges, and so we keep iterating with these models. But even from the get-go, from the very beginning, the forecast was pretty consistent, even with more of this data telling us that, yeah, Hawaii had this threat. And for the coastline in Hawaii, there's another part of this model that actually brings the synthetic wave up onto the coast in a few, maybe about a dozen places around our state. And so some of those models did say that we would have roughly 10 feet above normal sea level. So that's what we've been going on, and it's been pretty consistent.
And when will you update us again?
I guess I can take your advice on when you'd like an update. I think I should probably come down maybe in another half an hour or so, because we should have more readings from across the state, and then I can give you another update.
What sort of conversations will you be having in the next few hours?
Well, mostly we will just trying to see if the readings we're getting are consistent with our model, and thinking about the other places around the Pacific that we're advising at this time.
What places are the dozens of places that could see up to 10 feet?
Well, certainly Hawaii has certain areas that in the past typically get pretty big amplitudes, and that's Hanalei Bay, it's Haleiwa on Oahu, it's Kahului on Maui, and it's Hilo on the Big Island. And so those are for our models now, those are also the biggest places. Okay, stay safe, everyone.
And that was Dr. Chip McCreary from the Pacific Tsunami Warning Center saying, again, they are done predicting this event. It is actually happening right now. And during that press conference, Mark, and Drew and Ben, we were actually monitoring this live shot of Hanalei Bay and actually seeing signs that the waters were receding, and at times even parts of the reef were exposed.
Yeah, I've been looking very closely at the shoreline, which is just above the red banner. And at one point, it was a little bit further out, and so that may have been a little bit of the water receding. Not a ton, but there is a sign that something was happening, and there were some people in the Hanalei area who were saying that the water had receded enough where the reef was exposed. We were seeing some things on the camera. We weren't particularly sure what it was, but now looking at it, it might have been the reef getting exposed there, and then the water is now coming back in. But we do have just an indication that some kind of tsunami wave may have occurred or may have arrived in Hanalei. It's not just it's not that big, it's just not huge. But then again, remember, even if you don't have the size and height on the surface, this energy goes all the way down to the bottom of the ocean, wherever it may be, and is still capable of causing currents. And we're seeing a bit of that right now because it's a little bit flatter close to the shore, and then you can see those tendrils of currents that are heading out those areas of flatter water that kind of snake out into the further distance there. So it might not be huge, it might not be something that looks extremely destructive, but just from looking at the ocean and the way the ocean looks, there is something happening out there right now. But as Chip McCreary from the Pacific Tsunami Warning Center said, this could still be several hours. As we've been saying this evening, it's just the first wave. It's not going to be the whole, it's not going to be one and done. It's going to be an event where we're going to have waves coming in maybe every 20, 30 minutes, possibly for the next several hours.
And it does appear that, from when we first started taking this cam at 7:10, about a half an hour ago, that you can see more movement in this camera. And when you are speaking of an event like this, when you're seeing any types of movement in the current, that can speak to the strength and power. Drew Davis, you're looking very closely at the cams as well. What are you noticing on your end?
Like you mentioned, Mark, we are seeing some strong currents. It's a mixture of water going out. Ben mentioned that we were able to see some of the reef exposed, potentially even pretty far out, closer to that point that you see far off in the distance. And just taking a wide view, if you kind of look at you can see the currents in the water right now, actually. If you look at the water and look at the sunlight, you can actually see the water pushing in towards the coastline right now. So the reflective water, you can kind of see that current pushing in ever so slightly. Again, we are watching for multiple waves here, and off in the distance, the sun is setting, and it even seems like we have one person out there
that's what I was
foiling.
going to say.
That's really interesting.
Yeah.
It looks like one person paddling in the water right now on a stand-up paddleboard.
And the state officials said that they have rescue teams activated and ready to go, but in an event like this, they are not going to be putting their lives in danger and responding to save you. So
basically, you're on your own at this point. So if you have not heeded the evacuations, if you are going into the water, despite the fact that you've been told not to do so, you're going to be putting first responders at risk if they choose to go out and get you. Many times, because of the possible severity of the tsunami waves that will be coming in, they might not. They might want to keep themselves safe. They're not going to put their lives in danger just because you did. So we are seeing someone in this cam who's out paddleboarding, but really ought not to be doing that.
Yeah, we're also getting reports now of the water receding over on Oahu's north shore as well. We're talking about Haleiwa. We're just seeing that coming in from one of our reporters out there.
Yeah, one of the hot spots that Chip McCreary had mentioned, right? They're keeping a close eye on Hanalei right now and Haleiwa at the preliminary stages of this tsunami event. Our chief meteorologist, Jennifer Robbins, is standing by as well, looking at what we're seeing in terms of any sort of tidal movement, what we're seeing with the currents. What are you noticing on your end? What we're witnessing here, is this kind of typical for what we should expect in this type of event?
Very interesting to watch all of the elements come together right now, and it's unfolding before our eyes. And I really do think, like we were talking about in the press conference, that the initial wave is much smaller, and then we could see that build up within the next couple of hours. But you can actually see the direction of these currents. There is a little bit of stirring up that's going on where it is coming in different directions there. So this current is becoming more strong, and it is becoming a little bit more unpredictable. And that's why, like this gentleman or wahine that's in the water
Whoever's
right
in
now,
there.
it's just too early to say if the waves are coming our way, and they're going to be coming in waves. We're talking about not just one big wave. We're going to have wave after wave and surges of energy. And historically speaking, because Hanalei is a place that we do have been impacted by tsunami waves. We've seen that along the north and east shores of the western end of the state, and along the north shores of Maui County, and then along Hilo, there historically have seen big significant tsunamis that have impacted them. So it does take time for all of this to build in, and like we're talking about, it's going to be a waiting game right now, and we'll have to be patient